We're back with a new video. Something that I wanted to talk about, or at least was noodling a bit uh, around January, early January, while I was still doing my Cyberpunk walkthrough on my YouTube channel. And uh, one of my followers, one of my favorite followers, well, I don't want to say like favorite, like y'all are great. I don't want to pick favorites, but one of my oldest followers, Daniel, brought this up when we was having like a brief discussion about like because it was like a little bit after the 2020 Video Game Awards show where they were discussing about or at least we were discussing about how like what they did with Joel in The Last of Us Part 2 and how that character's death didn't really amount to nothing. It felt like empty. It didn't give you any kind of. I'm pretty sure people were sad, but not the kind of sad that we was kind of expecting. And then we was going on this topic about like uh, video game deaths. That I mean, they got the award, and from what I've heard from other interviews, about how like if it stirs up controversy and people are talking about it, it should make it also good and it still should qualify as like a great game because you have just because the people are talking about it doesn't necessarily make it good because there's plenty of video game deaths. And I will show you at least a handful that I looked up, at least the ones that I remember sticking out in my mind that not only that did not cause any kind of controversy, but unanimously were understood to be like a natural progression to that lead up to that particular character's death that felt earned, respected, and it got you in the heartstrings. It tugged on the heartstrings all at the same time. So yeah, because I got in my notes here. Because it was something that I had like a ire with when I'm pretty sure the person who was talking about it because they seem very sensible and everything like that, and they have a different opinion than me. That's perfectly fine. We all can have different opinions on certain subjects. You might not agree with what I'm about to say, but I'm not a Last of Us player. It was definitely not my cup of tea. I did follow the first one's walkthrough by other gaming people that I follow when that game was out back in the day. So like I know the story. I couldn't even keep up with this second part story because it was like, well, the whole entire thing with Abby and I thought about this like many other times in other videos, various videos, but it's just like what they did with Abby, the whole rapid, jarring character, POV and everything like that. You literally have people who were trying to constantly cause their own death when they got a hold of Abby because they hated that character so much. Not for any kind of misogynistic reasons. F those people. Like those people who bring that to the table, they don't need to be listened to because that's not a credible a credible of this. That's not a credible part of the discussion. That's not going to lead anywhere but fights. But there are certain choices that was made because when we knew there was going to be a part 2 coming up, we all came to the conclusion like, yeah, that's going to be Joel's death in that one. There's only way that's gonna end for him, and we all was understanding and cool with that idea. But what we didn't want is his death to amount to shit. It was piss poor, pitiful. So yeah, pull the image up. Yeah, Joel is a prime example that kind of at the tippy top to me as far as like a character whose death it's not the death itself, it's the way he died that was piss fucking poor. There are other characters that I will show you in a moment that actually amounted to something. Okay, that they got you. The what hit home for a lot of these characters is the fact that it felt earned. So the first one is like probably like the biggest one, the most recognizable one for a lot of Final Fantasy fans. The OG Final Fantasy VII game, Aerith. Her death, like shook everybody to the core when cause this game was in like 3 parts. I think she died in the first part, leading, and it was about to lead into the to the end, and it picks up into the second part. So this is like at a pitiful, not pitiful, but pivotal moment in Final Fantasy VII, where Sephiroth kills her to get one of Mongols she's holding, and then I forgot what it was called, like soul or life or something like that. She kept to her that he was looking for. He slain her, and you was with this character for a very long time. This is like a long game. Each one of those parts are very long games. So you with these characters, and go on these adventures, like all these stories. And Final Fantasy VII is probably the most well beloved games and most revered games of all time. And like Aerith is like a very iconic character in of herself. Aside from somebody like Tifa or Barret or Cloud or Sephiroth, she's just as like up there along with them. So far as like that character's death rocked you, and it was understood why that happened. Because can you imagine if she was slain like halfway through of meeting her? Probably wouldn't give a shit. Not as much as it would have as if the story carried on, because you was with this character for such a long time. You got to know her mother, what she's been through, and all this other stuff. And the same thing with even in it, because I even still felt the same way when I played the remake, even though it ended differently. Because I'm thinking like they're doing some kind of weird time travel thing going on, kind of like with Mortal Kombat. Since MK9, they doing all this time travel and rewriting, rebooting, and everything like that. But at that time, that that death not only felt earned, but you still felt something. It didn't feel shallow, Then this is hey Daniel, welcome. I was hoping you stopped by. Yeah, like aside from Aerith from Final Fantasy VII, this one was like the biggest for me. That when I played Red Dead Redemption 2 twice. And only once it was on like an actual walkthrough on my channel. You can check that out on my YouTube channel, Talkative Carl. So if you want to watch my entire walkthrough of that, but Arthur Morgan's death definitely felt earned, because like you spent all this time with them, with the gang, getting on all these people, and then because like the story weaved his death so perfectly with, and this is all spoiler by the way, in case nobody ever played any of these games, but I'm going to be spoiling the heck out of these things. But at a certain point when like one of the gang members is a German guy, Strauss, who put you in charge of collecting fees or loans from people who was asking for loans and they need to be paid back. One of these guys had the tuberculosis. Arthur caught that stuff, and through the progression of this entire story, you see it affect him little by little, and to the point like you're pretty much at death's door at a certain point. When the gang is pretty much like completely in shambles and or just flat out broken up, like half of them are dead, and others, at least either some are dead, the other like Dutch and Micah like went on their own thing and like just completely evil, and then you got Sadie Adler and like John Marston and his girl and their child going off and just like get out of Dutch's gang because it's not going anywhere at this point because he went off the rails. But then when you get to that mountaintop after fighting Micah, and it's like, you know, uh, Arthur is like at that point where he's like, he's uh yeah, I saw that, Daniel. Like I saw that earlier today about the Ghost of Tsushima. I'm excited for that. It was a thing that's supposed to be some kind of trailer or something, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I always been talking about that should be like its own movie, but yeah, probably another video for another time. But then you got yeah, when he's at the mountaintop, he's resigned himself and made peace with the fact that he's going to die. But he going toward before he even gets to that point, he makes sure he made peace with everyone along the way, or at least try to settle old scores, just with like Dutch and everything like that, because like he's ran off the rails. He's going to lead everybody to slaughter with his crusade, and it's not boding well for anybody. And it's like when he's finally at that point, he's pretty much like looking at the sunset, passing away in peace, knowing that for all the ill he might have done, he felt at peace knowing that in the end he did what he could to make things right with people he felt like he wronged. So that's what I'm talking about, like, like an earned death, that you felt at peace with him, knowing that even though you were the player, and if you did all the right, the good stuff, all the way, like you felt that his death, was like was somber, but you didn't feel cheated, because if Arthur was just as wicked as Dutch the whole entire time, it's like you'll be glad that he died. You'll be trying to make sure he come constantly throughout the game, just like Abby in The Last of Us Part 2. It's just that you got to write these characters well, because like I'm not saying like The Last of Us games wasn't written well. It's just that at some point along the way, the ball was dropped. Because other people made videos about what they would have done as far as making the story, line up properly. Maybe they need like a Snyder Cut of The Last of Us Part 2. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe they need a Snyder Cut of The Last of Us Part 2 where they don't switch over to Abby's point of view at all. Leave her as the kind of sorta antagonist, but like or at least like anti-hero in a way, at the very least. And then like Joel's death, like not every character needed like a hero's death, but this is like a Walking Dead kind of freaking video game where you expect them to go out in a way, maybe not in like a blaze of glory, but something reminiscent of many episodes of Walking Dead where like certain characters did very heroic things just to save other people, and despite them losing their own lives. I, and probably many other people, would have expected that kind of ending for Joel. And then if you ever play Gears of War 3, Dom, one of the four main leads of that game, along with Marcus, Coltrane, and Barrett. Those band of brothers It's like you going to war with these people. Like as far as like it's only been 3, we didn't expect to get like excuse me, 2 more games out of this franchise after Gears of War 3. But Gears of War 3, for all intents and purposes, would have been like thought to be like the final wrap up of this entire story that we've been on with this defeating like the Lambents and the Locusts and the Queen and everything like that. And but like I think it was in like yeah, it was in Gears of War 2 where like Dom and the gang, you know, got they went to this underground cave trying to I don't know if they was wrestling, specifically wrestling hostages, or they was and or taking down some kind of I forgot. I haven't played the game in a long time. They had like at least 2 objectives, if not one, just trying to find like the hostages. Cause, because Dom knew his wife was kidnapped because the Locust was kidnapping people, and the town that his wife was in, she was one of the people that was kidnapped. So they went off their own little mission to rescue Dom's wife. When you get there, she was just barely alive to say goodbye to, even though she couldn't be that coherent. They pretty much tortured her and stuff like that, but she was alive long enough just to see her husband one last time before she passed away, and he was just like distraught. And then in Gears of War 3, he's kind of like just like a straight arrow. He lost that kind of passion when she died, because he was like, he still cracked jokes every once in a while, but he's just like an empty shell of a man at a certain level, because he lost everything that meant to him in 2. So in 3, like, we knew where it was going. This dude was not going to clearly make it out of this game unscathed at all. So when he went at this point, I think it was probably halfway, where or at least getting towards the 3rd act, or at least the final act of the game, he was driving this vehicle full of explosives just to take down this whole like horde of like locusts, or at least trying to block their exit or something like that. Like I said, I haven't played this game in a mighty long time. Excuse me. And then you hear Marcus screaming on top of his lungs, "Dom, no!" And then it's like you just see the look on his face, like and then he said, I remember him saying like, "I'm on my way, Maria." That's his wife's name. He or something like that. He was just like he's talking to his wife, knowing that he's gonna meet her soon, and like, but before he does, he's gonna do something. Gonna do one last thing for his friends to make sure they make it out, so his death won't be in vain. And that's one example of going out in like a blaze of glory that's satisfactory, and it's not cheap or like overblown or overly dramatic. It's like a solid ending, because we know he was gonna die. Just the way he died, that was the crux of it. That led to something that showed me that okay, this guy's gonna die, but he's gonna go out like a badass. And it's like, I was like, can you imagine if Dom just like after he saw his wife die, and then he just pretty much like, I don't know, next game you find out in like a passerby kind of conversation, Dom hung himself like a couple weeks ago. So that'd be so shallow, and that didn't feel earned. It might feel sad a little bit, but it's like, what's that? He just hung himself, like, or like Don threw himself off the boat, drowned himself. It's like he couldn't handle it. It would have felt so like a pointless death. So like, it's the writing. It's like, if you got good writers behind the wheel, they should formulate an acceptable end to a particular character that nobody would be bitching about. Because that's the thing. It's like, just because The Last of Us Part 2 created controversy behind Joel doesn't make it good, or at least it shouldn't. I know a lot of people like dick ride The Last of Us Part 2 a lot, but I'm no shade to them, because like, just because not something that I really think is like a game that I would ever play. But I can see why people loved the first one, because I think the first one was like a very like well crafted game. That's like everything behind it was, their ducks was all lined up in a perfect row. But the sequel is just something was off, and they dropped. It's like they. I don't know. I wouldn't say they half-assed it, but it's just like the death in that. The death itself of Joel felt half-assed. At least to me, it felt like unearned. Getting taken out by a golf club. That's how you want like one of the most iconic video game protagonists in recent years to go out like a bitch. I want to say went out like a bitch, but it's kind of like a bitch move to choose of a death. Then you got another Red Dead Redemption character, John Marston, the original Red Dead, that he went out like Scarface in a way. It's like, he makes sure his family, his wife and son, went out, escaped, and he stood his ground to get all the attention pointed on him and away from them. Self-sacrifice. That's like another earned death. The fact that, of course, we didn't know anything about Red Dead Redemption 2. We just heard stories in the original game, and him trying to escape the gang life and his past, and everything kept following him. But he wanted to make sure that he did one last good thing and making sure his wife and child live. And like he was gladly to die for their sake, just so they can live on. And that was like a clearly earned death. That was like a sacrifice that it's like nobody would even argue with. Anybody in his position probably would have done the exact same thing. That's the thing. And it's like, can you imagine if he like Nino Brown and use his kid as like a human shield, like in New Jack City or something like that? What kind of pussy way to go out like that? That wouldn't be John Marston that we knew. Like, it's just that it had to like the story had to make sense along the way from point A to point B. So yeah, going out like this makes perfect sense. That's an earned death. Another big one, probably one of my favorites so far as like main character death, the Joker in the Arkham franchise. Like, you've been around with this character for a very long time, like Origins, Arkham Asylum, and then Arkham City. A little bit in Arkham Knight, but that's morely in Batman's mind. But let's ignore that and just count this as like the final actual moment of the Joker. And like, throughout that, this is like woven in from Arkham Asylum to City, that like a cohesive story that branched from one game to the next that obviously makes sense. We didn't expect to see the Joker die. That was like an unexpected death. The Joker is the fact that the events of Arkham Asylum with the Titan formula, him injecting himself just to be Batman, try to beat him in strength and stuff like that. But then, of course, all that was poisoning him. So, Batman trying to get Mr. Freeze to coagulate, or at least bond certain chemicals with Ra's al Ghul's blood, because his blood is like so long lasting and it bonded well with it, just to make a proper cure to the Joker's poison that from his own blood that he passed out to Batman and random hospitals to Gotham City, and even though Batman managed to find the cure and fix him and other people in Gotham, he was still like in the end. Like I remember the line. This is like even though like Joker trying to like jump him and steal the thing, make Batman drop the vial and pretty much like wasted it. So Joker just sealed his own fate at that point. Hosted by his own petard. That's another way, a good character death, usually. But then Batman's line when he's mentioned like, what's funny? Through all the evil and the horror that you rained down on so many innocent people, despite all that, I would have still given you that cure. And it's like, I like that because still Batman would have done that. He still would have saved the Joker despite the bullshit he put him and many other people throughout his career as Batman. He still would have done the right thing and saved this man's life. And it's just like, then it's just that you feel this some part of Batman, you can just tell the way he's carrying him out of the Monarch Theater and putting his body on the hood of the cop car here, that some part of him still feels bad because Batman refused to kill, and in a way he still feels responsible. Even for this monster, he still feels responsible. Even though he's a monster, he doesn't want to take his life regardless, and it's eating him, and you can tell that from Arkham Knight how that is still eating him in some fashion. But that is a earned death that you've been with. The Joker from the comics. You've seen playing in movies, and you've been playing this game up to this point of this at the time when Arkham City came out. That when when he's at that point when like, oh holy crap, they killing off the Joker. That was like a ballsy move. It was one of like the biggest comic book villains of all time. You killed him off without any, and you pull that trigger and like. That felt earned, like you, and this is like I won't say beloved, but this is like one of those infamous characters that you would never thought someone actually had the balls to kill off, and it technically is stuck, despite what you see in Arkham Knight. Technically, it's stuck. He's legit dead in this universe, and that like I said, hosted by his own retard, he ended up killing himself in a way. Because he wouldn't just be patient and let Batman give him the freaking cure. He knew Batman was gonna. He said it himself. He knew Batman was gonna give him the cure regardless. But Joker being Joker, he screwed himself. And certain villains tend to screw themselves and causing their deaths. You see that in movies and in video games, comics, plenty of times. So it tends to happen. So that was a earned character death in a video game. That like, yeah, you've been with him so long that you knew, even though you probably knew. Well, in this version, I don't think a lot of people knew there was actually the Rocksteady had the balls to actually kill off the Joker, but they did it. And that probably caught everybody by surprise more than anything. But that was definitely an earned character death. Even though everybody was surprised, nobody was bitching about it. At least from my memory of the time when this game first came out when I was a kid, nobody was complaining. We were all just more shocked that oh my god, they actually killed him. And like, he's a villain, but that was like an earned death regardless. I never played the Telltale Walking Dead games, but I do remember watching the walkthrough of the first one. Or at least when Everett was the main lead. And you're talking about earned deaths. When or at least when you're controlling Everett, you spend all this time with Clementine and making sure like, you're trying to hold like the group together, making sure this kid is looked after, she's trained to protect herself. Because if you watch The Walking Dead, I fell off after the whole situation with Negan and everything like that. I fell off. I didn't care to watch any more of that stuff. It was on a downward spiral after a certain point. But I know of The Walking Dead and its tropes. And like when the main character is about to die, usually in The Walking Dead is earned. And or at least not only a surprise, but earn at the same time. And you got this in this game, Everett, and despite everything he's done, if you playing him in like a good manner, despite all the stuff that he tried to do for like the group and Clementine, and making sure that, because I forgot the circumstances, but they get trapped. He's already injured. He's know he's gonna die, and he also knows he's gonna turn into a zombie. He doesn't want that to happen, and having, because the very thought of him not only turning, but turning while in the same room as his pretty much adopted daughter, and might end up killing her because he's still a little child, not like the full-fledged late teen / adult that you see in the subsequent sequels. But he unfortunately had to tell her she had to use what she learned and pull the trigger and kill him in the head so he does not turn and attack. Because he flat out said he will attack. He knows full well, he's seen it happen. Everybody's seen it happen plenty of times. In this universe, a lot of kids like Clementine had to grow up pretty fast and learn some hard lessons and do some hard choices, like killing a loved one when they know full well they might not make it out of a certain situation like Everett did. So this was like a very somber moment. A lot of people I heard like cried at this moment. They didn't want to have to lose the lead like this. They wanted Lee to make it out of this thing. But given how The Walking Dead works, that was not gonna fly. It'd been nice, but that was not gonna fly. This was like an earned death that, throughout the chapters and the bonding moments, through the highs and lows of the time you have the group and everything like that. This moment tugged at your heartstrings very hard, and just because I don't know if they actually I don't remember they actually showed her killing Everett, but it was done. And this was like an earned death. This is like a self-sacrifice kind of thing through the hands of a loved one, but that kind of death does tend to happen usually in zombie movies or apocalyptic kind of movie kind of things. But that was like an earned death that I don't think anybody had gripes with ultimately. And finally, we got the Borderlands 2 Roland, the lead of the Firehawks. Well, they might call it something else prior to the Firehawks. I think Lilith called it the Firehawks after Roland's death, but I forgot what it was. Not bandits, but something like that. But Roland took me by surprise because this is the first Borderlands game I tried, because I had interest in it a little bit, mostly because of Zero, but I'm a huge Borderlands fanatic, man. I love this universe. It's so much fun. I cannot wait for the movie as well. Probably gonna be seeing the opening day if I could. But Handsome Jack's probably the most infamous video game villains that I've seen to date at that time. Just like another Joker, pretty much, because he was sadistic and he ended up shooting this man in the back. So another surprise death that you did not see coming. Because he was like the Nick Fury of this group. That everybody looked up to, everybody listened to. He's like Nick Fury mixed with Captain America, pretty much. And the fact that he was gunned down like a very punk way when somebody's shooting him in the back in just a completely dishonorable fashion by a nut job. That death, while tragic, sad, it was earned because, just like in certain movies like Star Wars, The New Hope, for example, where you got Obi-Wan Kenobi trying to teach Luke Skywalker. And same thing with Return of the Jedi, with Yoda teaching Luke Skywalker. It's just like those mentors. Like Roland Primo was like a mentor. Sometimes mentors have to die off at certain points, so the character, after learning what they could from them, has to take it a rest along the way, that use what they learn from them and take it the rest of the way. Because you can't, just like with parents and mentors, they can't be with you throughout the rest of your life to hold your hand. And like sometimes good storytelling means that the wise mentor or the original leader have to die off. And that's just one of those circumstances where like a death would be earned in that fashion. So that's what I mean about like certain character deaths. These like just like a handful of character deaths that I personally think that was like well more earned than Joel's by a long shot. And I'm pretty sure there's guy, if you're watching this live or you're watching this later on in the future on YouTube, you can let me know if it's something I might forgotten about. Like there's like a particular character death that I might have forgotten, and you can leave at the bottom of the comments below to let me know that you think was like a far better and well earned character death in like a video game. I would be I'm eager to know, because this is what I pulled out. These are a few that came to mind that I think like was more well earned than Joel's death. Because like I said, Joel's death was shallow. It wasn't like a worthy of like a hero's death, because he was a hero to a lot of people. Because there are people who love the Last of Us franchise and the story and everything involved in it. And so far as like having Joel go out like that just felt hollow. And it's like the examples that I use with these other characters, how hollow they can be, goes to show that the ball was dropped somewhere along the way. It's like somebody didn't, this could have gone through maybe another draft or another like another brainstorming process, because they seem like like they went with like a golf club to the head while he's being held down. Is that worthy of someone like Joel? And I heard people talking about how like you know that's one way to do it, but that's not a way that it seems like they want to like they want to go a different way kind of thing. It's like we want to go like some kind of like a shocking way that's like this haven't been tried and that kind of thing. It's like, and that's the only one that y'all came up with. There wasn't like, I want to see like the list of options that they came to before they went down to golf club to the head. Because I'm pretty sure there's probably better outcomes that I'm pretty sure the masses probably be more satisfied with compared to just down like a bitch, like I said. Because can you imagine somebody like try to do that with the Joker in the Arkham games? How pitiful would have been that for one of the most iconic villains ever. or Arthur Morgan. Like, even though he died of a disease, but given the Wild West, and a lot of people die of that, infection a lot, it was everything leading up to that kind of made that worth something. He didn't go out, of course, like a blaze of glory, like, like they did not want Joel to do. But it still felt satisfying in a way compared to just a golf club to the head. Because I don't know, because certain decisions Joel made so far as like rescuing his adopted daughter from that doctor, it's just like that whole entire scenario that led up to that golf club moment was pitiful too. Because a lot of people saying that they don't like the way, they would have agreed. They told me they agree with Abby and her decision to take out Joe in that manner. Excuse me. Or at least something or other. They pretty much like agree, like, because Joe, what he did was wrong. That I do not agree. I seen what happened at the end of Last of Us Part 1. Joe was well within his right. I mean, he did kind of escalate things, sure, because he didn't have to kill everybody along the way. He couldn't just like, anybody who was hostile to him, he takes out. Anybody who just does well, he just moved the heck on and just, whatever. But if like when you have like a child, adopted or otherwise, and like let's say their blood can easily cure the coronavirus, but they have to kill your child in order to make sure it's distributed and blah blah blah, and it's like you'll say F that. There's no way, or at least because Joe didn't give what's her name the decision herself to decide whether or not she would be, because that'd be a nice character death on his own if what's her name, Joel's adopted daughter, I forgot her doggone name, Ellie, if he would have made different decisions with the writing in The Last of Us Part 1, like, you know, either like kill him, if you want to kill the doctor, if he get hostile with you, fine. But you shouldn't have to go on a murder spree on your way out with Ellie. Or you would have talked with, like, a good writer would make sure that Joel sat down, had like an hour a discussion with Ellie to discuss her options. It was her body. Women decide what they do with their own bodies. So he should have gave her that choice so she can decide what to do. If she did not want to die and there was no other option beyond that, then y'all go out and like say, F y'all, I'm not, dying or whatever the case may be. But if she does decide it's worth it to say, one life, what's one life compared to like billions of other lives, I want to make this decision, I'm willing to do it, then that would have been like we would have respected that. Then Last of Us Part 2 would have a different outcome altogether. That would probably have been a little bit more satisfactory, that would have flowed seamlessly. But like those aren't the decisions they made in part 1. So they made part 2. They have to finagle a different like thing to like have like, you didn't have to make up. You could make up Abby, but you made her like a Jack Hulk, pretty much, which I don't think is necessary. You could have made her like Sarah Connor from Terminator 2, just as effectively, and still be a badass. She didn't have to make her Lou Ferrigno, and that was a weird decision. And then not to body shame or anything like that, but I just thought it was like a weird decision that to have her super jack, or she could. Linda Hamilton, if you've seen Terminator 2, she was jacked to hell. Not jacked to all hell, but she had like some muscle tone from working out while she was in an insane asylum compared to what she was as like a meek little waitress in Terminator 1. So there's a nice little progression of working out and being like a stronger character that Abby could have done, but she didn't have to look like she took in steroids either. You know what I mean? But it's just that, nix the whole POV thing. I don't think nobody agreed that take over Ellie, because like if you look at all these video interviews about like The Last of Us Part 2, I heard so many people constantly off themselves while they're in control of Abby, just because they want to just watch her die because they hate her that much. That's what I'm telling you. If just because it causes people to talk about it constantly, or it stirs up controversy, does not make it a good thing. Not necessarily. At least in my opinion, it shouldn't, because it's like the games that I listed were very well crafted games. None of them caused controversy, and at least half of them earned Game of the Year themselves with no backlash about it. No arguments. I'm pretty sure when it was up to, they were up against other nominees for Game of the Year, I'm pretty sure they, people who games that did not win still understood why, like maybe, Arkham City would have won or something like that. And it's like, yeah, I get it, kind of thing. People don't, we got Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, and Last of Us all in the same category for Game of the Year. It was, everybody telling me, it's too close to call. No, it isn't. Last of Us seeing be up there first and foremost, because like despite how the gameplay might be, the story, like I said, they dropped the ball at some along the way. Because like Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hades, it's like a seamless storytelling, seamless gameplay, graphics phenomenal. Everything was hitting all the check marks. None of them had controversy, because nobody wants controversy in their games. Nobody wants controversy in like any form of medium, because Normally, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. That's just me, because that just boggles the mind how that won Game of the Year, honestly. But that's not the issue. The issue what I'm having is the fact that Joel, Joel, you know, he's not my favorite video game character, but I respect him as a video game character, and like others who liked him, because he's still reached that iconic status. Because like I said, I've seen the story cutscenes and everything like that, and walkthroughs from the first Last of Us game, and say like, yeah, he's kind of like Logan in the last Wolverine movie. He was kind of like that. It's like this, like just like this, not crotchety old man, but it's just like this guy who's just trying to, do his own thing, but along the way he had to step in because he still have a heart of gold kind of thing. He still got some like empathy and all the other stuff, and it's like, so like I respect him for that kind of thing. I think like, yeah, he's not my game, but I respect the character, for what he's worth. But like, have him go out the way he did seems so pitiful. I mean, I'm just curious to know like, what you guys' thoughts are. Of course, you can leave a comment below. But I think I'm gonna end the video right here. But yeah, I just want to get that off my chest. It's something I've been thinking about since the Game Awards show last December, when Last of Us Part 2 won Game of the Year. That boggled the mind compared to Ghost of Tsushima, who through and through was like a solid game, and like everything that and Final Fantasy VII Remake, everybody put so much time. It's not like they didn't put time and energy in Last of Us Part 2. But I'm just saying, like, everything, like I said, that all the check marks for those two games were marked. And even Hades, the game, even though it was like an indie game, it was a solid game. I enjoyed it. A lot of people enjoyed it. But compared to Last of Us Part 2, there was no shortcomings. And I'm astonished that, because I don't want to be one of those people saying like, oh, Game Awards show is rigged, or Last of Us company like paid people off and blah blah blah. I don't want to be that person, but there's got to be something that's like some kind of thing that none of us are privy to. That, because like if you reach Game of the Year, or at least nominated for Game of the Year status, that means that your game is damn near flawless. There's no perfect game in the world, but you gotta be so damn near flawless. When it not only because of the story, but also with the game mechanics, the graphics. It's just like there's like game mechanics that was in Street Fighter V that were like, some issues here and there that I played a little bit. A lot of people had certain issues when that game came out. Can you imagine if that got in Game of the Year, despite its shortcomings and the issues people were having with that? Or even Duke Nukem, the last Duke Nukem game that came out several years ago. Can you imagine if that went up Game of the Year despite its shortcomings? I know it's a little more extreme, but I'm just saying, like, if it has any shortcomings at all, it shouldn't be up there at all. It has to be like minimum to almost none issues. Last of Us Part 2 had an issue with the story. So it wasn't like it didn't flow well to a lot of people. Like, everybody gotta be pretty much unanimous saying like, yeah, that deserves Game of the Year. Nobody complain where Ghost of Tsushima or Hades or Final Fantasy VII Remake went up into the nominees for Game of the Year, because we all know they were well-crafted games. There was no buggy issues. There was no glitches or anything like that. And the story flowed. If it has all three solid of those things, they definitely earned Game of the Year. But Last of Us Part 2 didn't deserve to be on that list, because the story was off a bit. somewhere along the way. I can't put my finger on it, but it has to center around Joel himself, and the death, more specifically, probably caught my eye more than anything. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people felt that way. But anyway, yeah, thank you all for joining me. I'm probably not going to be streaming any video games tonight, but I will be back tomorrow. I'm going to be streaming a lot of video games through the weekend, so I'll see you guys next evening. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I will be doing. I'm finished watch the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm starting season 1 of Jackie Chan Adventures. So some point next month, I'll be doing like a review of those first seasons, and then also doing another watch along of Delia's Warrior. 2 more episodes of Delia's Warrior. So I'll announce that soon down at some point next month. It's probably gonna be before my birthday next month, because my birthday is on the 23rd on April on a Friday. So I'm gonna probably arrange to have like a 3-day weekends where, like, because it's like, Thursdays like I'm normally not streaming, but like Friday. So that Thursday and Friday, I just want to probably like keep to myself. Depending on what I'm doing that Saturday, that's up in the air. But as far as I know, like, I'm gonna, that day of my birthday, I am not gonna be streaming. I just want to chill out. Probably gonna be seeing some friends. So I want to try to make sure I get out enough videos before then, so you guys will be satisfied. And I'm pretty sure by that time, Falcon and Winter Soldier, unless there's another Falcon and Winter Soldier episode on that day, I probably will do at least that. Because I don't know if it's going to be 9 episodes. I'm pretty sure it's only 9 episodes, and it might fall under that. Another episode might fall on that day, so I might, if it comes to that, I might still do that for that day. But yeah, I'll let you guys know. But thank you all for joining me. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff to Talkative Carl on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I will see you all tomorrow. So take care and be safe, guys. Peace.